6 weeks. That is how much time we have left until the end of the year and until we possibly will meet our goal of firing up the scrapyard drag truck for the very first time. Remember, we are building a twin turbo 4-wheel drive drag and drive style truck, mostly out of junkyard parts. And the goal is to just hear the engine run before the end of the year, not have it done, just start it up and possibly drive it. But at least like the baseline goal is fired up. But we seem to have made a little step backwards because the cab is off the frame, the bed is off the frame, and we are in the middle of plumbing. So it seems like we have quite a bit left to do. Sometimes I think, well, it's getting close, but other times I get overwhelmed and think we are so far away because there's so much left to do. But the way we accomplish this is just one day at a time, baby steps, and knocking one thing out every day consistently. So today our goal is to finish plumbing, and that's actually the reason why we pulled the cab off of the frame. Last time we got started running our fuel lines, and since then you can kind of see we have most of them ran, or at least kind of mocked up. Got a rear mounted fuel cell back there. We got some bulkhead fittings here so we can terminate and do some different versions of the fuel system from there back. We have 10AN PTFE lines wrapped in this heat shield stuff. And we're also doing some stainless brake lines. And that's where we're gonna pick things up today. We have just a roll of brake line and we need to go from there, it's already connected to the axle, to the proportioning valve here. So let's turn that coil of hose into something that's actually useful. Got a head start on the brake line yesterday. This would be so much easier if we could just run like an OEM style, but because of the way this truck has turned out, that is kind of impossible. We're eliminating rather the ABS pump. The rear hard line typically goes clear back here, but we have shocks and an anti-roll bar in the way of where the rear hard line would have went originally. So short version is we are building our own. So picked up this deal from good buddy Bezos, and it turns this round bit of brake line into a straight bit of brake line. Pretty slick. So I did actually buy a pre-bent stainless brake line kit for the whole frame on this thing, which I'm only going to use maybe like less than a quarter of it just for a few pieces for the front, but that will save a fair amount of time because this hardline bending, it's time consuming. I'm doing some painting that you're going to see in just a minute, and I'm in between coats waiting for one to dry, so I figured this was the perfect time to come out here and remind you, get entered to win the 2nd gen Cyclone. That's right, I'm giving it away. I built this truck, you've seen it on the channel, probably 2 years of my life has went into this truck, and it is so much fun. Guys, it has a Harrop 2300 FDFI supercharger under the hood. That's the same type of supercharger on the LS9. It's got an Eaton 2300 rotating assembly. Not an LS9 blower, don't get in the weeds on that one, but it's a 2300 supercharger, positive displacement. It makes amazing sounds. Tons of torque. This truck is so much fun. It's all-wheel drive, just like the real Cyclones were, so instant traction. You can launch this thing on a dirt road, a dusty road, or an ice road, and you're still gonna be taking off like a rocket ship. This truck can be yours. So here's the deal. Go to my website, tolmanperformance.com. Any purchase that you make will get you entered to win. You can read the official rules. They're all posted up there on the website if you have any more questions about the sweepstake. It is open to citizens of Canada as well as the USA. So if you're in the Great White North, you could be taking home this truck as well. Every $5 that you spend on the website will get you 1 entry into the 2nd Gen Cyclone sweepstakes. We also have a quick entry feature going, which actually gets you twice the entries of a regular purchase. So check that out as well if you don't want a t-shirt or a hat or a mug or a koozie. 2 new items this week, by the way. We have a new t-shirt with the red 2nd Gen Cyclone on it, and we have a movie style poster, I call it, or a magazine poster of the Cyclone as well, showing all the build specs and stuff like that. So check it out, get entered to win, because you can be taking this thing home. It's my favorite sounding truck. So I've got 2 different benders that I've been using for this job, and like there's a science to it. I don't know the science, but what I do is I just take these scrap pieces, I put them in the bender. I'll do like 90s and 45s, and I'll make some marks on them so I know like where the, say, clamp for the bender goes and where the finishing part of the tool goes. So I can basically hold this guy up, say if I want a 90 here, I know I have to start the clamp at that point. So just makes life a little easier. And if I mess this up, I mess up the whole piece. Fingers crossed. Now, all the factory brake lines were held in place with plastic clips, but I'm not doing that. I'm using cushion clamps. And luckily there's a handful of factory holes that we can use, so I'm not just having to drill a bunch of new holes in the frame. This cut right here can make or break this whole line, because if I judge the length wrong, I got to start over. Most important, put the nut on before you flare it. Cool. All right, so they wrap these up for shipping, and we got to straighten that out. All right, that's more or less what we get to work with. This was supposed to save time, but I can see right now it's going to be, I have to redo a lot of this. So my goal, to have this truck done, twin turboed, built transmission, slicks, all that good stuff, ready for Rocky Mountain Race Week next year. I think it's like usually late May or early June, so we got time, but that's a lot of work. I didn't show you guys every last step, but the chassis brake lines are now officially plumbed. Very happy with this kind of like cool detail over there where it like jogs around the shock tower and the left front wheel tees off. The Dorman line though, overall, I kind of wish I just built it from scratch, because it was, the shape was close, but there's like right in here you can see kind of this little funky wiggle. That's because it was initially bent this way, and then I tried to straighten it, and I can never straighten those tight bends and have it look normal. Even if you put it like in the tubing straightener, it doesn't really do a good job on it. And then over here on this side, this last bend was like 3/4 of an inch too far back, so it wouldn't connect to the hose. So I had to straighten it, rebend it, and reflare the end down here. So I mean, it saved me a little bit of time, but I kind of would have preferred to just start from scratch. I am still waiting on a couple of socket head cap screws for these two clamps. Everything else, that's kind of what I'm using for hold downs, and I like those black socket head screws. Anyway, brake lines are done, and now the moment I have been waiting for the last week, time to get the cab back on the frame, sort of, because I do have to do a little bit of trimming to fit the fuel lines. Now, I wanted to run the lines like this on top of the frame because when the exhaust is running in here and you know, the drive shaft and all that, it's kind of close. I could have run the fuel lines in here, but I didn't want to. So the only thing I'm going to have to do to accommodate that is do a little bit of a notch here. All of the other ribs, you can see back that way, there's plenty of room, but this one, and it's really only like here because the frame comes up. There's a gap here, so we're just going to do a notch. We'll plate it, we'll weld it, and we'll paint it this color just so it kind of all blends in, and we can then reunite the body with the frame, probably for good. So you can kind of see where we have it marked out. The pinch weld here is going to be tight. Rather than cut that, we're just going to kind of fold it over with the pinch weld folder over 900 from Bin for Tools. Oh, very important. Before I started this, I went inside the truck and I pulled the carpet up and I put a couple of pieces of wood in there so there's no carpet or foam or anything anywhere close to this. So we won't catch the truck on fire because I've done that before. Ask my dad. So there's an inner and an outer layer, as you can probably see. And I cut the patch like so. That way the weld can penetrate and attach to everything. All right, one last step. I got this all painted up last night. I used the factory match paint, which on these trucks, apparently under here, they just kind of have more of a generic primer. Sort of matches, but anyway, I don't care so much about that. We don't want it to rust on the inside though. So this is my kind of secret weapon I've been using a lot lately, cavity wax. Not cheap, but it comes, or you have to actually buy extra, this little wand, which is just a big old nozzle on a straw, so we can kind of jam it up in there and coat the back side of this. It's not paint, it's just like a sticky wax and it'll stop corrosion. So we'll do that there, and I'll probably hit the inside of this frame cross member that I welded on last time, because we don't like rust. This is a drag and drive truck, which means it'll probably get driven in the rain, especially if race week this year is anything like last year. Luckily there's some factory holes here that we can use. So we're gonna try something different for the body mounts, cab mounts. People seem to enjoy these and say they work pretty good. And I hope they're right because they're not cheap. S&B silicone cab mounts. So you got some kind of isolator up top. All items on this side of the card go above the frame. So that sits on top, that sits on bottom. So we measured at least one time before we made a commitment to where we wanted that notch. Let's see if now everything fits back together. Just kind of goes to show how accurate those assembly lines have to be, because I mean, like hundreds or thousands of these trucks a day, frame going down the line, body coming up here, and they just slap it together. That is precision. Can't say I have ever torqued a cab mount to spec, but they included one, so we'll do it. So I can't wait to try these cab mounts out. Everybody says that they're gonna make the truck ride a lot smoother, quieter, more comfortable, and all that good stuff. If you wanna check out a set, go to Summit Racing. I'll put a link down below this video so you can find them directly. They're S&B Cab Mounts. But Summit also wanted me to pass along, they have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal going on. You can use the code CYBER. It'll save you 20 bucks off an order of $250, 40 bucks off an order of $500, and 80 bucks off an order of $1,000. That's code CYBER. And then, again, support Summit because they're a big supporter of the channel. And they have pretty much anything that you need. Like we used their PTFE fuel line to plumb the chassis. You can get stainless brake line from them. You can get, I mean, engines, cylinder heads, camshafts, anything, you name it. So the code that you can use from now until the 23rd of December is code BUILDIT. Save you some additional money. So thank you, Summit. Check those guys out. They're pretty awesome. I think the part that I just like the most about doing projects like this, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love projects, but the part that I love, or that I hate the most is just taking up all of my shop space when they're disassembled. I know the guys hate it too because they've been trying to do actual work and all my crap is in the way. I have a part of the frame out back, I'll show you in a second. I have a part of the frame that I added, which I need to modify, for driveshaft clearance. I took out the fuel tank cross member, I don't know, a couple years ago, and I replaced it with a straight section of pipe, because to me, that looked a whole lot better, which it does. The only problem is with the lower ride height and with the 5-inch drive shaft that I want to run, it is going to be very, very close to touching the cross member that I added, which we don't want to have happen. So what we're gonna do is add a little bit of a jog up in the middle of that cross member. Make sense yet? This is the material the cross member is made from. And for an added challenge, because I like to challenge myself, I want to keep this welded seam on the bottom, because when I welded the cross member to the truck, the seam was on the bottom. And I want that welded seam to stay consistent all the way through the little C-notch or bridge or whatever it is that we're building. So to do that, I have to have that weld at the 90-degree angle when I cut it, because the angles are going to be different. But anyway, this is the same thing as when you're doing pie cuts. I have a square. I marked it out at 1.5 inches, so all we'll do is put the square there. We'll rotate it so the seam is at 1.5 inches off the ground, which means it's exactly halfway. The miter is set at 22.5 degrees, but I have to do some quick mental math here to make sure I have the right side of 22. I might need to be the other way. So I'm going to start with that piece. All right. Hey, look at that. It's almost as good as getting some banana bread at work. So that's kind of the last major fab project that we have to do in the back of the frame. Eventually I will add some drive shaft loops and things like that. But for now, the main objective was just to have more than enough clearance for the cross member, or for the drive shaft rather. And it looks like there's a mile of room now, but when the bed's on here, that goes down quite a bit. And of course, a 5-inch drive shaft will take up a lot of space. So now we don't have to worry about it hitting. The very last thing that I have to do is I'm going to wire wheel and paint this frame just so it matches the middle, but I don't really feel like doing that right now because it makes a mess. Instead, I'm going to do some things on the bottom of the bed here that need to be done to make it fit. Obviously, we've already done a lot of work to this bed. Like I made a hole in one of these little tube thingies for the filler neck, so that kind of comes right up through here. I just cleaned it up and reinforced it a little bit. Had to make a C-notch here for the fuel pump because that sticks up just a little bit. And this bed, you can probably see it here. Someone had chopped a hole in it for a gooseneck hitch and they completely cut this out. So I re-added this middle cross member. I kept it short because the frame rail and underbed notch go here, but I needed to trim it just a little bit further. You can see it doesn't even, I just kind of stopped it there, but I need to trim it like that to give a little bit more room for the fuel lines because they go right there. And then finally up here, I'm going to add this guy here. This is just a mount for the rear electrical junction block. I'm gonna kind of just spot weld it like that. On the 03 truck that the chassis harness and everything came from, this actually bolted to the rear cross member, but our cross members are completely different now and have been modified. So we're just gonna attach that to the bed floor like I just showed you. And that's the same way, like Ugly Truck was that way. And there's another GMT 800 in the shop this week that had the same thing on it. So I'll put the picture up there and we're just gonna basically mimic factory placement for that. And of course, we're gonna do the other side just to make it look symmetrical. So they say weight reduction is important in a race vehicle. So I'd say that 4 ounces of material we removed is gonna put this truck into the 8s. And now for the fun part, time-lapse time. Tell you what, guys, as we get closer to the end of the year and my goal of trying to get this truck fired up just kind of makes you realize how much time goes by, how quickly. I mean, today is the 21st of November and it feels like 2025 just got started. But the weeks go by and we get older, and such is life. Anyway, we did, I feel like, accomplish a fair amount this week, even though at the end of the week I look back and I'm like, what did I even do? But here we are, we're looking at the truck. The cab is back on the frame. We've got new body mounts in there. We've got our bumper put back on. And we have the frame, not quite dry yet, but it is looking so much better. The flat black, I don't know, I'm torn. On one hand, it's kind of cool. On the other hand, I wish it was semi-gloss black powder coat, but someday I will have a truck where I completely take it apart and powder coat the frame, and I think it's going to be this one. But remember, we got a lot of work to do before we get there, because we're probably going to do remote mount batteries. We got to get our exhaust mounted, and all of that requires welding and things like that, drilling holes, and I don't want to powder coat a chassis until I'm ready. So I feel like now that the frame is painted, the body's back on, the bed is ready, the fuel tank, we've already had it in. I feel like from this point on, the project is going to go a whole lot quicker because most of the hard work is done. Yes, it takes a lot of time, but I'll tell you what, guys, I have never once regretted taking time to do something a little bit better than you could with rushing through it. So, see you next time. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to get entered to win the 2nd Gen Cyclone, LS swapped, all-wheel drive, supercharged. This thing is so much fun. Seriously, you are going to love it. It's instant power, instant traction. Like, this is the ultimate sport truck. And I'm not just saying that because you could daily drive it. You can have fun with it. If you wanted to mess around with some pulleys, you could turn the boost up, or you could just enjoy it like it is. So thank you guys for watching. Come back soon.